Here's Art, right after this. KCBS News Time, 8:07.
Good evening. This is Art Finley's Night Feed on KCBS, and this hour is sponsored in part by Sanwa Bank of California. The real mayor of the city of San Francisco here in the studio now for the 10th time since I've been working at KCBS. He comes in about every 6 weeks or so, and we talk about a variety of things, like, for instance, tonight, is it true that according to what Jack Rosenbaum said in the Independent newspaper, that among the possibilities for the successor to Frank Jordan as chief of police is Gail Orr Smith, the deputy mayor for public safety and a former police commissioner?
Gail Orr Smith is a
Wait a
wonderful...
Wait, start again.
Gail Orr Smith is a wonderful, talented woman and one of my deputy mayors for public safety. She oversees liaison with the police and the fire department. She's a former Detroit police officer for 10 years. So she's got some wonderful credentials and uses them all as my advisor on public safety issues, but she's not going to be a candidate for police chief. I need her too much as my deputy mayor for public safety, working not only with the police, but the fire department and a number of other issues that affect young people, gang violence in San Francisco.
Who is going to replace Frank Jordan?
Well, that's a good question, and I want you to help me answer that.
Yes.
All right? This is the last time we're going to be on this show. This is the 10th and the final time because the higher-ups here decided that they couldn't handle the kind of sparks that you and I create when we're together every 6 weeks. And so I want to issue a proclamation.
Before you do a proclamation, I'm
not used to being interrupted like this, Art. You know, and since this is the last show,
take it as an indicator. The reason for this is that I requested my dismissal because I'm going to be running for mayor. And
oh God, not you too! Oh God!
So watch it.
I think you'd be a very worthy candidate and certainly a very glib one, and I would look forward to the opportunity to discuss issues just as I have the last 10 times.
Yeah.
But what this proclamation says is that San Francisco is proud to honor and commend the wit, the wisdom, the good humor of Art Finley, who for decades has been a media friend to thousands of Bay Area residents, and that your record of professional accomplishment and dedication to the highest standards of journalism are worthy of the commendation of San Franciscans. And so with the power that's vested in me as the mayor of San Francisco, the real mayor of San Francisco, I'm declaring today as Art Finley Day in San Francisco. Now, what that means, besides this pretty plaque that I'm handing to you right now as we speak, yep, it means that you can do anything I can do as the mayor of San Francisco for your day in San Francisco, Art. So there it is, baby. You live it up for a day. You can park where I park. No tickets.
Really?
You can issue whatever directives and probably get as much response as I did on the transfer tax and a number of other things like that.
Listen, let me ask you a question.
Yeah.
Let me first say thank you very much. I've never been so surprised. Well, last week I was surprised. Today I'm really surprised. Would you still be as friendly and cordial and nice to me? By the way, I've just decided on reconsideration I'm not going to run for mayor. If I stay on here at KCBS as a news anchor, will you still be nice to me?
Well, absolutely. In fact, I will just monitor what you're saying, and if you do the news as well as you've done this show, we'll be fine. Yeah,
that's the real thing.
Serious. You betcha.
Be tipped.
It's about
that
time.
Must have cost you to have that printed. What, 15, maybe 20 cents? That's
those
beautiful.
Things, those things are the real McCoy, and you deserve it. And I want you to save it as part of the family archives.
What a good guy. Thank you, Mayor Art. Now, let's get right back to business.
Yeah.
The last time we were talking...
That gives you the power to help pick the next police chief.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Really?
So what do you think?
I don't know.
Kind of awesome, isn't it, that kind of power?
It really is.
Okay.
What I'm trying to think of right now is a question to ask you, which is going to break my embarrassment. Damn, I hate to be surprised, but I like to be surprised. All right, listen,
Okay.
My question to you is, will you go along with the crusade that I talked to you about maybe 2 times, that I was talking about to Frank Jordan, the police chief, yesterday? The crusade is, if you can't spare city funds to properly arm the police officers of San Francisco, if I come to you shaking my tambourine and say, I'm not going to take anything off the top, I've got a trust which is set up to buy new semi-automatic handguns for the police, will you make a personal contribution?
You bet.
Okay. Is it going to be necessary to do this?
No.
Because?
We're going to find the money. We're working on it right now. One of the areas that we're looking at is, as you know, there's a drug, what do you call it? Drug seizure forfeiture. Basically what happens is when we catch drug dealers in their fancy Mercedes or their yachts and all the rest of them, we catch some. We've got a number of their assets. We seize them and we sell them. And we put that money from the sale of those ill-gotten cars and all the rest of it, boats, yachts, whatever it is they've got, houses, into a drug seizure forfeiture fund. Mm-hmm. And as we sell them, we can use that money for various things that are drug-related. Now, it seems to me, we've got a committee, we've got to convince of this, it seems to me that arming our police department with the kind of semi-automatic pistols they need to deal with drug dealers and all the rest of the well-armed criminals on the street that they occasionally run across is an apt and correct spending of that money. So that's where I'm looking to do that. Now, we just can't go, by the way, Art, we can't go and give 1,800 police officers semi-automatic weapons. They have to be trained on them. Some of them don't want it.
I got a lawyer who says that he's an arms instructor from the military. He'll train them for free.
No, I know, but we still have to take them through and train them, and there's a lot of people that have to be trained, and some of them don't want it. They're afraid of those. They don't think that some of them, not all, some of them don't think that those semi-automatics are as reliable as the ones they have. And now, this is not me talking. I'm sure if you discuss this with the chief, he told you that some of them don't want them.
No, we talked about that, but that's the early.
But we're going to aim at doing it. We're going to aim at doing it.
The early Berettas that were made in Maryland to replace the Army Colt 45s, they had some defects in them, but not the current crop.
Really?
And the Smith & Wessons are very good, and the Glocks are very good.
As that gets out to the rank and file, there won't be many people who don't want them. But we're working on trying to use the drug seizure forfeiture funds to purchase the weapons. It'd be about $250,000. And then start distributing them as we train police officers. I haven't done it yet, but that's where I intend to get the money.
I don't have to set up a tax-free foundation then.
Listen, if you want to do that,
no, I don't want to do that because I pledged that if I did such a thing, I wouldn't take a penny off of it.
Oh, of course not. But I'm saying if you want to do it, we can always use the money. I mean, it's.
Listen, I want to ask you about something that you sent to me in the mail today. Not you, but your office sent to me in the mail today. But first.
Of the Men's Warehouse, talking to some Men's Warehouse customers.
What's the difference between...
Night Feed on KCBS. Mayor Art Agnos is here in the studio right now, and we are about to open up the line so that people can question him about a variety of issues. But before we question him, this came in the mail to my house today, and it has to do with Proposition I on Election Day. What's the matter? Are the earphones working?
Oh.
Just turn up the sound.
Okay.
Thank you. Now, why are you so hot to get Mission Bay through, and what's Shorenstein got to do with this?
Well, Mission Bay is an extraordinary opportunity for San Francisco to build some 8,000 units of housing, 3,000 of which would be affordable housing in the $85,000 to $130,000 range, something we desperately need in San Francisco. Child care centers, open parks, wetlands, back office space. And here's the rub with Mr. Shorenstein. We want to build about 4 million square feet plus of back office space because San Francisco has been losing some headquarters company to the East Bay and to Fairfield, Vacaville, who say they need to place large space to put their clerical workers, their big computer banks, and all the rest of it. Mission Bay is going to build that kind of office space. Now, we won't be able to provide the same exact price as, say, Fairfield, but that's 60 miles away, and we think people would like to be 6 blocks away instead of 60 miles away, and we'll pay a little bit more but less overall for the back office space that Mission Bay will provide. The Shorenstein Company said, yeah, that's a good idea, except what you've got on paper doesn't guarantee that'll be back office space. It could be a second downtown in the South of Market. I don't want a second downtown in the South of Market. And Mr. Shorenstein, his son, called that to my attention. I spoke with other city officials, and they said, yeah, it can be tightened up. So Mr. Shorenstein has done a public service. We sat in my office, quite frankly, Saturday and Sunday, with representatives of that company and Mission Bay and worked out a amendment to the development agreement I'll be introducing that will tighten that up and make it a better product. And so, unfortunately, these missiles once you fire a missile, you can't recall it. And so some of the campaign rhetoric that's hitting the houses like yours doesn't reflect a good service that was done by both sides for San Francisco in making this an even better project.
It's because I couldn't figure out why you, a prominent Democrat, and Walter Schornstein, who's another prominent Democrat, would be at each other's throats.
Well,
as this implied.
Well, this wasn't me. This was another big company, Catellus, that were fighting about that, and not me. But what Mr. Schornstein called to our attention made some sense to me, even though I didn't agree with all the things that he said, and we've made this project a better one, a stronger one for San Francisco because of what he said and what Catellus is, to their credit, agreed to do. And so we've got a better product. Unfortunately, we've got some fallout over it with the missiles that were fired by both sides against each other. But it has a happy ending, and I think the war's over.
Two more things, Mr. Mayor. The first of which is, are you going to finally let this transfer tax die now that it was an 8-3 vote in the Board of Soups against it?
Well, I don't have much choice. There is obviously the vote went against me because this is a week before the election. The real estate interests poured tons of money to defeat it, and were successful. So the real estate interests, in my view at least, succeeded over the city's interests. Let me tell you, now, you're a reasonably progressive guy. This tax...
take that.
Well, this tax that I proposed, very simply, Art, would have raised about $20 to $24 million by raising the transfer tax. When you sell a piece of property, right now it's $5 per thousand. Oakland is $10.60, and they're raising it.
Yeah.
Now, what we were going to do is raise it to $10 and guarantee that the extra money, from 5 to 10, which equals about $20 to $24 million a year, would fully staff, bring our police department up to full strength. That would cost about $8 to $10 million a year to bring up our police department, full strength. Every neighborhood would have all of the police that are authorized on paper. We're short about 164.
1974.
Right.
Oh,
We're short about 164. Between the various ways, we would have brought up to full strength and then used the other $10 million or so for affordable housing, something we desperately need. Everybody says is number one problem. All the polls say number one problem. 75% of that $20 to $24 million that new tax would raise would come from the sale of big downtown buildings. Hear me. 75% of it would come from the sale of big downtown buildings.
What's the floor you put on it? 300,000?
The other 25% would come from the sale of residential property, and that would have had an exemption of $300,000 that would be indexed. So every year it would go up so that the average home, which is $290,000, wouldn't have to pay the extra tax. Big homes would when you sold it. In the meantime, those homeowners who weren't selling their property would get the benefit of a full-strength police department right away. I think it's a great way. Now, no tax is wonderful, Art, obviously, but I think it's a great way to bring our police department up to full strength and build affordable housing when you sell a piece of property, especially when 75% of that tax would be paid by big downtown buildings that never were supposed to get the benefit of Prop 13 in the first place, but they have been.
But if you had introduced this at a time that the real estate market was hot and booming, you could have got it passed.
Oh, I don't think so.
I think the real estate market is sagging now, inevitably, because there's a downturn in the economy.
True.
So maybe if you want to ever reintroduce it, wait till the market goes back up again, and then bring it in again. Because
but the real estate industry, the majority of the real estate industry, really is not interested in that.
I got to open up the lines, Mayor.
Okay.
I really do, because we have a good time discussing everything, but I want the listeners to get involved. Okay?
Absolutely.
Mayor Art Agnos, Mayor of San Francisco. The telephone number to use is 1-800-228-5227. I apologize for not having opened up the lines earlier, but in conversation and everything else like that, I just get carried away because the guy has a great first name. The telephone number, 1-800-228-KCBS. Lines are open for you right now.
Mayor Art's no waiting. The real Mayor Art of the city of San Francisco here in the studio.
Hello, Mayor Art. How are you?
How you doing, Art? Nice to be back.
And first question, what happened this morning down in San Jose when you met with the mayor of San Jose and half a dozen other mayors in reference to help for the homeless?
Had a good meeting with Mayor Tom McHenry, Mayor George Livingston of Richmond, and Mayor Lonnie Hancock of Berkeley. It was her idea, that is Mayor Lonnie Hancock, that we get together and talk about some of the common problems that we have that surround homelessness. So we decided, since Tom McHenry has the most money, that he would be the host. And we went down there to his office and met for about an hour and a half, learning about what each of us is doing. Sometimes we get so preoccupied with what's happening in our own cities and all of the things that are coming into our offices that we don't share information and share possible solutions. So we had a chance to talk and learn from one another, and our staffs are going to be meeting next week to develop some specific recommendations that came out of our general discussions today, and then we'll be getting together again in 3 or 4 weeks to finalize those and take them to Sacramento and to Washington in order to get the kind of help we think we deserve in the cities that we're not getting to deal with homelessness.
How much money do we get to keep from the Red Cross? Where's it going to be spent?
Well, as you know, we've been doing some very careful discussions over the last few months to convince the Red Cross that the money that they raised in the name of earthquake relief ought to stay here in the earthquake area to assist those people who still have tremendous unmet needs. They've identified $52 million that was donated to the Red Cross in the name of the earthquake. That is, people who wrote on a check to the American Red Cross for the earthquake. And they have spent somewhere around $12.5 million, and so they've decided to make the remainder of that amount, the $40 million, available to the earthquake area. Frankly, I think there's about another 10 or 20 million, but I'm not going to quibble, that may be available with donations that were given to the Red Cross but didn't specifically say on the check for the earthquake, because a lot of people, I'm told, wrote checks to the American Red Cross without designating earthquake from California and around the area.
Please don't think I'm being brusque with you, but it's just that I want to get some basic questions out of the way immediately, and I want to open up the lines early, because you know you had a windfall of calls the last time you were here a couple of months ago, and I said, if I just shut up early enough, you'll get even more calls, okay? Okay. That's the reason I'm getting to these questions right away. Tell me about the Board of Suits. First place, is Sam Duca going to continue as assessor, or is he going to powder out?
No, he's going to retire. He's finished a long career in City Hall and done a good job, and he's going to settle back with his grandchildren and his golf game and the other things that retirement brings.
So, therefore, 2 members of the Board of Suits are going to run. Wendy Nelder and, let's see, Dick Hongisto is going to be running against each other for his job.
At least that's the 2 so far. There may be more because the close of filing hasn't come yet, and so there may be several other candidates as well.
Who do you want off the board of the 2? Who would you rather see off the board?
Well, no, that's not the real question. The question is, who am I supporting for the job of assessor?
All right.
Not that I don't want anybody off the board there.
No.
What I think is the choice. I'm supporting Dick Hongisto because I think he's qualified. He understands assessments. He's been studying for this kind of job. He's interested in it, and it wasn't a sudden, last-minute decision to make this race. And therefore, I think he's prepared for it, and I think he's going to be a very solid assessor. He's had an administrative background, and I'm going to support him.
I don't understand this. This is Kane. I know you don't recognize his existence.
Who's he?
You remember Herb. He says several...
Wasn't he a writer years ago in the old days?
Still is.
About
Sacramento boy, you know. He says, it says
several... Still thinks the other Greek was the mayor. I mean, how much out of it
Did you read that this morning? What are you talking about, George Christopher?
Yeah.
Some clown in Philly thinks George Christopher's still the mayor?
Well,
Good Lord.
Talking to who around?
It says, with Hongisto off the board and Agnos able to appoint a successor to do his bidding, the big move would be to take public works away from CAO Rudy Nothenberg and hand it to the mayor. Now, what the hell does that mean?
I don't know.
Who... I don't understand.
It's goofy, if you ask me.
Why you want Rudy Nothenberg's job? Do you want it, or is this just a rumor? All right, tell me.
That's the kind of rumor that comes from somebody who thinks George Christopher is still the mayor of San Francisco. What can I tell you, Art?
You don't. In other words, you're satisfied with the job that Rudy Nothenberg does.
Terrific.
All right,
He's terrific, and I'm looking for more work to give him because he does a wonderful job. So I don't know
Okay, you're going to try again on the vacancy
Why doesn't
control
Herb call
issue?
us and answer that crazy question?
Are you serious? He didn't call?
He should.
He will.
Will he?
Yes, he will. Next
He'll
time I
call
saw
you. He won't call me.
Next time I see him, I'll see him tomorrow, and I'll say, "Hey, Herb, will you call the mayor?" And he says,
No. Call us now.
Herb
Call
doesn't
us
listen
now,
to
please.
me. Are you serious?
I think he should. He might learn more
he
about
has,
what's happening in
he
San
has tapes of
Francisco.
Don Sherwood. You're laughing. I want to tell you something. I'd like to know if you're going to try again on the vacancy control issue. Are you really?
Betcha. Absolutely. You know, we just got through talking about homelessness, Art, and we can't wait till people are on the streets, in the parks, sleeping, or in a doorway. We've got to do things that prevent people from falling into homelessness, and one of the major ways is you keep housing affordable. And we proposed a very moderate form of vacancy control, controlling the amount of increase that someone can demand when an apartment's vacant to a maximum of 30%. I think that's enough to raise the rent, and unfortunately not enough of the Board of Supervisors did, and so we didn't win this time. We'll take another crack at it with the next board.
Whose mind are you going to change, Kennedy's or Nelder's?
You know, we got to change the two who had said they would vote for it before, and that was Supervisor Nelder and Kennedy, and they changed their minds.
Whose mind are you going to change back?
Whose?
Yeah.
Well, that's... we're going to talk to both of them and other members to try and convince them of the merits of this issue, and I'm sure the voters are going to have something to say about it because they obviously support this. They've defeated issues that were related to this in the past at the polls, and I'm hoping that they can convince people. I can't change the members of the board as easily as the voters can.
I got to talk to you about your deputy mayors. I got to talk to you about your books. Look at this book. This is a book that's cobwebby.
It is somewhat
it's 2 years
modest, I
old.
know.
2 years old, this book right here.
Which one?
I'll hand these two books over to you. First and the second edition, to be autographed by you while you think about the answers to my next questions here on KCBS. There must be... America West has daily flights to New York's JFK and Newark Airport on KCBS. Mayor Art Agnos is here in the studio. Two more questions for him, then the lines open automatically because he's going to take a lot of calls tonight. Question number one. What kind of a deputy mayor superstructure did you inherit from Di-Fi? How many deputy mayors did she have?
She had 3 of them, and a large number of other people who did a number of jobs that had different titles and high salaries. When I became mayor, I told the departments, because of the $172 million deficit that I inherited, the largest in our city's history, I said that whichever department out there takes the biggest cut, I'm going to match with the mayor's budget. So I cut my budget in the first year the same as the biggest cut any other department took. That was about 17%.
Mayor Art, you got 7 deputy mayors.
Just a minute, let me finish.
All right.
So I, in my first year, reduced my budget by the same amount as the biggest cut any other department took. Okay? With the money that I had left, I organized my staff the way I thought I needed to carry out the assignment, to carry out the goals and objectives that I outlined in my campaign for mayor. And in order to empower those people that I hired to do the job, I took the title of deputy mayor and gave it to another 4 people, so that I have 7 deputy mayors. And I pay them the kind of wage that top talented people could gather or gain in the regular marketplace. So I reduced the mayor's budget. With the money I had left, I redefined the jobs and retitled 4 of them to call them deputy mayors, so that when people go to represent me with the public, with the Board of Supervisors, with the federal government, with a Secretary of Health and Welfare, with the state, with private enterprise, they know that they're dealing with someone who is important, who carries the authority of the mayor. In my book, which I had campaigned, which I just autographed for you, Art, I talked about creating deputy mayors for business and economic development, for housing, and people didn't raise a question then. It's been some of my critics, like Supervisor Tom Shea, who, frankly, was unhappy because I didn't sign some legislation which he wanted me to sign to create...
You mean the Denver boot legislation?
Yeah, right.
And you...
Well,
you're
serious? Let me finish this way. Yeah, and so he was unhappy, and so he decided to get even by questioning my staff. And a mayor, like a governor or a president, can't be held hostage to a audit every time he doesn't do or he vetoes a piece of legislation from the legislative body. Just imagine what chaos we'd have if every time I didn't do what a supervisor wanted, they asked for an audit of my staff. So that's why I resisted it. I have no problem with people knowing what my staff does or what they're getting paid to do. But I want it to be a fair inquiry, not a political vendetta.
Let me tell you what scares me.
Okay.
Comes 1993. You're the new senator from California because Cranston has pulled up land. Okay?
I'm not running for that, though.
I didn't say you were.
Okay.
Now, this is 1990.
I'm pleased.
Wait a minute. I'm just simply telling you that the Democrats in disarray say, is there anybody who's a sure vote getter? Well, it's not but one, and it's Art Agnos.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so now you're the next senator from California. Now the next mayor comes along, and he says, well, listen, Mayor Art had only 7 deputy mayors. I think I can make do with 12. I mean, what can you do to stop the pyramiding of these accessory jobs after you leave office and become senator?
It's the budget that matters, not the titles. And what I did was reduce the mayor's budget from my predecessor.
This guy's going to get 12 deputy mayors to work for $35,000 a year each?
If his budget
Your successor?
If his budget is less or the same as mine, why shouldn't he call him anything he wants?
It's just that people say, where's this in the city's master plan that we should have these deputy mayors? You remember when Bill Roddy was the only guy just scouting around City Hall? That was it?
Art, what would make you happy? Want to call them nurses?
No, I don't want to call them nurses.
What do you want to call them?
I want to call them...
staff aide?
I want to call them... God's truth?
Yeah.
I want to call them ex-employees.
Ex-employees?
Ex-employees. Will you think about that for the next year?
No.
Oh, okay.
Because what I want to do is a job for the people of San Francisco, and I can't do it by myself. I need
ask you to do it by yourself.
Talented people, and that's what the deputy mayors do. Let me give you an example. Just 2 weeks ago, I announced a $2.5 billion project that we're going to take to the public for their consideration. It was...
Mission Day?
Yeah.
That's a
You
beautiful
think I did
project.
that by immaculate conception out of my head, single-handedly? I had some talented people.
That's not where it happens.
It's called a deputy mayor who helped me coordinate the various department heads, city planning, and all of the others to negotiate a $2.5 billion deal. No mayor can do that by themselves. And when you take a look at Santa Fe, they've got a whole raft of executives and lawyers and all the rest who are negotiating on the other side, trying to get the best deal they can on the city. 2 days later, we announced the conclusion of 3 years of negotiations to settle a thorny problem with work furlough beds and $22 million for a jail medical facility and 300 work furlough beds. We did a number of things at the same time, Art, that are complicated and very important projects to San Francisco. Got more going on. No mayor can do that by themselves in modern times. And
just consider
the judgment. What I want you to judge me by,
all right,
is by what I've accomplished at the end of 4 years, not what I call my staff people.
Years later, when you think about this evening, the 21st of February of 1990, you're going to say, that's the day when a tocayo, which is the Mexican word for another guy with the same name, Art, said to me, TCB, take care of business, meaning that the guys, the Joe Lunchbuckets, and the people like me who live in San Francisco, who got you elected, want you to be a man of our cloth. See? Like when you go out and you talk to people like you did, and you went out and talked to people, and you found that the reception, according to the Chronicle, was less than enthusiastic, you could get that all back, but you got to first remember that you're a man of the people. If you step out of the traces, then they're not going to forgive you for it. That's all.
Well, I don't lose the people by calling the people that work for me a title that gives them the authority and the power to do something.
That isn't what I mean. What I mean is the fact that if they're making $93,000 a year each, and consider over the next year whether you might want to reduce your staff. That's all. Remember the initials TCB from the other guy named Mayor Art, all right? Will you think about it?
No.
Taking care of business.
Well, I am taking care of business.
I know that, so that when you ever go out to a meeting again, people will say, this guy is one of us, instead of this guy is now consorting with the president and the vice president, and, you know, he's now Mr. Big...
Oh, that's a lot of bullshit, Art. Well, you would get off of that, for God's sakes. I mean, consorting with the president. You go talk to the president to convince him to do things for earthquakes. But, I mean, get off of this thing, will you?
All right. The telephone number for Mayor Art Agnos, who's a man who tends to speak his mind from time to time. You notice I didn't hit that kill button.
What kill button?
The kill button over there. I got a delay button.
Oh,
I didn't hit it.
I don't want the people. I want the people to hear what kind of bullshit you're giving them.
There, he's done it again. The telephone number is 1-800-228-5227. 1-800-228-KCBS. Wouldn't it be nice?